put your Winceyette nightie on. It's a bit like making a pavlova. This is my finger. I think you know it's my finger. Hi everyone. In today's video, we're going to be taking a very deep dive into Byredo's Bibliophilia palette. This is the palette that I almost didn't buy. The question is, am I pleased that I finally did take the plunge? There's going to be 4 very, very different looks, swatches for you to consider, as well as daylight swatches as well, so indoor and daylight, sensible and useful comparisons, quite a bit of chat as well, so get your drink and join me and watch on. Byredo's Bibliophilia is an 18-pan palette. There's a cool side and a warm side, 9 shades on each side. So let's swatch and let's see what the shades look like close up and what finishes we get. Firstly, here's a close up of the palette. As you can see, we've got 9 cooler shades and 9 warmer shades. Let's swatch them and see what they're like. So here we have the warm side of the palette. We've got this shade here, Epitome, which you can just about see on my skin tone. And then here we have Author's Note, a lovely kind of matte shade. And here we've got, it's really a matte, but there's a bit of satin in there as well. You'll see it on me actually towards the end of the video. It's actually a very nice shade, and that's called Alliteration. Then we have Bibliophile, which has got a little bit of satin in, and then look at this tremendous kind of antique gold shade called Gateway. And then Pages of Wisdom. And then here, these are the star of the warm show of this palette. Over here, we've got Soul Escape. And then look at this shade. Isn't that glorious? Mind Reader. And then Biblioteca. Beautiful. These two metallics here. And actually, that's got metallic, a little bit of metallic through it. But these two are just beautiful. Look at these. You see the sheen. So it's a warm colour story, but I would say it's not your average warm colour story, is it? Now let's look at the cooler side of the palette. And so the cooler shade at the top starts off with Mind Solace. Look at that shade. Isn't that fabulous? And then we've got Wordsmith next to it and Chronicle, which is a little sort of easy transition shade there. Then we've got Archivist and another matte shade here, Epilogue and Librarium. These are easy blendable creamy shades. And then look at this Passage of Time over here. Look at that. It's beautiful, that glimmer. Passage of Time with its kind of smoother cousin, Mind Solace. And then we have Bookshop and then Manuscript. So here, Bookshop, that's the deepest shade, and it's matte, of course. So those are your cooler shades with a couple of really poppy metallics to kind of pop the inner corner, or even on the sort of middle of the lid. And here are both halves together. You can see the colour story is definitely one of 2 halves. That's not to say there can't be a little bit of cross-pollination, particularly amongst the metallics. But even so, that gives you an idea of what these shades are like. And here we have daylight swatches with both my hands on both sides of the palette. So it's daylight with no sunshine, although I think you'll see a bit of sunshine peeping through. Here's the warm. Look at those shades. I mean, they really are stunning, aren't they? It's not really a word I often use. And here we've got the cooler shades as well. More muted, but still not insipid, and plenty there to love. I think you can see a bit of the sun finally poking through. This is a big day in this country, bit of sunshine. Okay, so all I've got on is a bit of Lisa Eldridge Phoebe liquid eyeshadow on my eyelids. I think I've done my brows, and I've only got a little bit of lip oil. This is really nice actually. Bought a bit of an impulse. Dolce & Gabbana lip oil. I think it's called Watermelon, but I can't tell because even squinting doesn't help me with the bottom, but I will put it up here. I think it is Watermelon. Anyway, what I wanted to start with was actually the most exciting part of the palette, and that is Soul Escape, Mind Reader and Biblioteca. So these 3 reddish shades here. Not because I am a fan of red. I've hitherto always thought that just going to make me look like I've been bawling my eyes out and I've been dumped. I don't need to relive those years. However, I'm just going to put a little bit of the epilogue. And anyway, my point is, I didn't think that I would like it. However, when I was in Selfridges and having a kind of rethink over this palette, my eyes have sort of calmed down from, as I've said, this sort of eczematic kind of storm, as I like to say, particularly on one eye. And the sales assistants were way too busy with a big group, spending the big bucks actually on the fragrances. And so I was left to my own devices. And I was quite happy to be left to my own devices because I just put some of these shades on my eyelids. I don't think I would have had not so much the confidence, but I suppose the bravado to buy this palette when probably it's a good 6 of the shades I was a little bit ambivalent about. I'm not saying I didn't think I would use them. I did think I'd use them. I just didn't think I'd get the use out of them. Or also, I didn't think that they were that kind of unique. However, when I put them on my eyelids, especially the last 3 that I've mentioned, I thought, oh, these are quite special. These will be fun. My other kind of concern was, it's all very well. We're now into kind of, we're all hurtling towards winter, aren't we? But I think I've said this before, come January, the light changes a little bit. I change a little bit. There's a bit more hope in my heart. I'm much more of a spring summer kind of person. I'm not saying I don't like autumn, winter. I'm just saying that's kind of, for me, it's just a bit more my set point. And so my makeup changes quite dramatically then. I didn't want to be buying a palette that I'm just not going to get the use out of until I'm kind of bored with it. However, I don't think this is going to be the case with this because this is very much a palette of 2 halves, and I think the first half is going to be easy to use. We'll do that next, but this is the slightly trickier one. But again, I think I'm going to be using this in the summertime as well. I do understand why they've kind of brought this palette out now. It is a more immediately fall, winter looking palette, but I think the reality is it's way more flexible than that. And I know I fall into this as well. There is this thing of, oh, if it's new, once it stops being new, in other words, when the next thing comes on, then, oh, we're just going to forget about that. But the reality is, in real life, we shouldn't forget about these palettes, we should go back to them. So, to that end, I've been going back to Lisa Eldridge's Sorcery, for example, and actually really enjoying that. And this time around, weirdly, I've noticed I can get far more subtle kind of day looks out of it than I think I was enjoying the last couple of years. But that's just a different approach, I suppose. At any rate, that's why I sort of rethought this, because I physically tried it on my eyelids. And then, even then, when I bought it, I wasn't actually going to review it because I kind of thought, well, it's kind of been and gone a little bit, but it kind of hasn't. And I do know with Byredo, they do, even though it sells out, they do tend to have a cheeky little restock. And in fact, that's how I missed out on Mineralscapes last year. Selfridges had probably their 3rd, I think, restock. It might have been more. And I finally thought, oh, I'm going to buy it. I was chatting to the sales assistant and then my phone rang. I got caught up with work, went round the corner to kind of actually have my work call and bark a load of instructions at people. And then I forgot all about it. This isn't good. At any rate, my point is, I just thought, okay, it's worth showing you what it's like on very mature skin and very mature eyelids, but also on a medium skin tone, and whether actually it's going to be of use to you, because it's £92, how many dollars? $115. This is not a cheap palette. It's not crazy expensive, but then, as we all know, our parameters for crazy expensive have kind of been reset recently, haven't they? And if you compare it to an Hermes palette, for example, or Tom Ford, we're all in kind of that kind of wheelhouse, and actually you're getting more shades, but it only helps if you're getting more shades if you're going to use them. So, there is that. That does remind me, actually, the first time I was in Selfridges and I discounted this palette, it wasn't just my eczematic eyes. I was in a slightly grumpy mood because I had gone to Hermes to give everything else, give the eyeshadows yet another go and yet another swatch. I'd already been to the boutique actually twice to do it. And the new quad, just the grey just doesn't show up on me. So when I was in Selfridges, I thought, okay, I'll have a look at, their existing range. But, I was a bit underwhelmed still. And I just thought, that's an awful lot of money. And that was when I went to Byredo, then thought, oh, you know, am I going to be wasting money again because there's so much of it I'm not going to be using? I seem to have taken an awfully long time just to put a little bit of this neutral shade in the crease. This is not representative of the palette. This is more representative of me chatting and getting a bit carried away. The question is, am I going to use my finger to swatch this, or am I going to use a brush? Let's start with a brush. I don't know why I asked you that, because I was always going to do this. Let's start with a brush and see what happens. And if I go in with my finger, so be it. Let's see what we get. Is it quite sort of, yeah, it's quite soft. I don't know whether you can see that. Let's see whether just on the first application, I'll put a bit more, and then I'll do my other eye, and then we'll come back and decide on whether I need to go in with a finger. I think I probably do, because I would like this to be, you know, quite fiery. If you're going to go for it, let's do it. And actually, I'd rather I went for it and gave you a real sense of what it's like than you feeling you have to kind of suck it and see yourself. So that's what that looks like. Look, I've just brushed it on, haven't I? All I'm using a Refa 13. Bring you closer. Just have a look at that. I'll do the other eye off camera, and then I'll come back and we'll see. So this is what you get with just the brush. I'll go and do the other eye and I'll be back. Okay, so I've done both eyes. Let me bring you closer. And what I did do is I gave both of them sort of a couple of goes just with the brush. So that's what it looks like if you just use your brush and, you know, coat it on. Now I have got the, as I said, the Lisa Eldridge underneath, the liquid eyeshadow. And that for me is fantastic because I find eyeshadows just last, you know, a lot longer. The colours are truer and it's just a smoother base, particularly on days like this when my eyes are dry. So it does give as good a kind of a base as basically I'm going to get, particularly as the weather, for here anyway, starts to get colder. So that's what it looks like. I would still like to do the old finger thing on top. Let's see what happens. Worst case, I can remove it. This is my finger. I think you know it's my finger. Anyway, are we getting more on? Yeah, I think we are. We're getting more of a foil effect, aren't we? Let's put a bit more on. Why not? Yeah, you can probably see this. Let's do it on this side as well. It's got such a lovely fiery tone without it being so red that, I mean, it is obviously in the red family, but it doesn't make me look, I think it's probably to do with the metallic element of it, it doesn't make me look like I'm unwell. And that can be a problem. I think the level of sheen to it, it's not a wet look, but it is definitely a metallic, is such that it looks obviously like an enhancement as opposed to a terrible byproduct of weeping. Although bibliophilia does mean that I could have been reading a particularly moving romantic novel. It could have been. We could have had that moment where the hero actually proposes to the heroine and her life is complete. We've all been there. Yes, although obviously that could be tears of mirth on my part. They think that's the pinnacle. Let's put a little bit, now look, I've got them on my hand here. So the middle one is the one that we've got, which is called Mind Reader. But I want to use a bit of this, Biblioteca, which the classicists amongst you will know it means library. So let's see, let's get a clean brush. What's this one? This was a 14. Have I got another? I've got so many of these. Okay. Oh, that was 13, I'm sorry. I can never remember the numbers on the refers. I kind of remember the shape. That doesn't necessarily help. Okay, so let's do that. Now, this is not the darkest shade in the palette, but here. The darkest shade in the palette is this one, which is called Bookshop. So I'm going to go in with Biblioteca, but if I need to deepen it a little bit, then it'll be Bookshop that I use, just so you know what we're dealing with here. Oh, that's going on rather nicely. These are actually light and airy. That's what I would say about these deep shades. There is the pigmentation, but if you want, and if you're lighter than me, you just want a lighter kind of more diffused look, not hard to achieve at all. They're very airy. I'm sure there's a better word than airy, but it's a bit like making a pavlova. you know? You want to get the air into those egg whites. You don't want them stodgy and solid, you know. Now this may be, yeah, I think it is. I think it's a little bit too metallic for it to be going in the crease. I know it can look amazing on some people, but somehow, and I don't think this is an age thing, I don't think it's ever looked good. Maybe it's just the shape of my eye, I don't know. So I'm going to mix it with a little bit of Bookshop, which is this one, which is matte. So I think that's, yeah, that's going to be better for me. Let's get a fluffier brush and we do this. I do apologise if you can hear howling. It's, you know, it's not a human and it's not an animal, it's the wind. It is howling at the moment. I don't know what's happened to our weather. Normally in the UK, well, I say that, normally in the south where I am of the UK, September, we know we can have some nice mild days and maybe even a little bit of proper sunshine. But basically, the minute the 1st of September rolled in, all bets were off, that's it. Put your Winceyette nightie on, and if you don't know what Winceyette is, it's like a fleeced, brushed kind of cotton, which is just divine if you're like me and you feel the cold. But anyway, that's another story. Back to the eyeshadow. Look, this is very nice, but I needed a matte, so I've used Bookshop. That's what I needed. I'm not sure, therefore, what I would use this for. I think what I'll do is I'll put it underneath so we can see how it looks. I'll do that, and then off camera I'll even up the eyes to save you from getting really bored. Okay, so let us put the Biblioteca underneath the eyes and see what happens. But anyway, it's really howling, so I do apologise. Now, in keeping with the book theme, this literally makes me think of Wuthering Heights, because in the Bronte novel, which is being filmed, isn't it? There's going to be a film with my alter ego. I get confused all the time with Margot Robbie. So Margot Robbie is going to be Catherine, who is the rather well-heeled, I don't think she's titled, but she's from a very good family, heroine of Wuthering Heights. And she falls in love with the Byronic, mysterious and moody. Only in novels is somebody moody, you know, interesting, as opposed to, frankly, a bit of a pain to live with. I don't want to live with moody people, although I've not been altogether successful in that. But I'm just saying, I like temperate people who are just calm and nice and fun. And there's none of that business up and down. But anyway, in novels, that is, you know, there's no drama in being ordinary. You want to be, being interesting is part of that. Anyway, so Heathcliff is moody. He's meant to be swarthy and dark and mysterious. There's very much a question mark, as I am digressing, but this may well, you may end up watching the film, and this may or may not be helpful. The young man that they have cast as Heathcliff is a kind of very handsome young man, but he is not dark and moody and swarthy unless they go full on with the self-tan. I don't know, they might do. I'm doing this eye underneath as well, but off camera I will do the deeper crease shadow so that you're not. Oh, this is very nice actually, isn't it? Underneath, because it doesn't feel too metallic, but it has got a little bit of dimension. Off camera, I'm just going to deepen this eye up, and then let's see what else we're going to do. Okay, so we've got both sides done. Now I'm going to bring you in so you can have a look. I mean, you know, it makes a statement, but I don't think it looks too sort of pantomime-y. I think that's probably the wrong word. But anyway, yeah, a little bit too Cirque du Soleil. I don't think it does. I think it's obviously making a statement. It looks intentional, and so I don't think I look like I've been crying. But I also think that there's sort of an interest to it. There's enough dimension that it doesn't look, as I said, too kind of theatrical, I think. But I might be wrong. I don't know. Let's put something in the corner just to brighten it up, because, you know, especially with my eyes, I need a kind of, I need something a bit brighter in there. What I'll do, look, these are my options. I have got alliteration as an option on the warm side, or I can use wordsmith from the cool side, or, and I do like this, passage of time. This is the one that I like. It's like a light champagne. Now, look, there is a bit of warmth. Should we put that next to, let's put that next to, there we go. Okay, so there's the light champagne, and you can see there is what I've got on the lids, mind reader. I think those two might go quite well together. And at the end of the day, even though the eyeshadows are from different sides of town, as it were, that's okay. We can travel, we can take the tram. Right, okay, so what have I got? Oh, this is one of my favourite brushes. So this is the MAC 239S, this one here. It's got one on that colour, but I'll just use the other side. Okay. Actually, don't, maybe I've, unusually, maybe I forgot to wash this one, but it's okay. Passage of time. Let's pop that, oh, lovely. Pop that in the inner corner. See if it brightens things up a little bit. I'll tell you what I like about this is it's got the same type of shimmer as Mind Reader, so it'll blend nicely. It doesn't seem to, yeah, that's rather nice actually. Let's put a bit more on the other eye. But anyway, I just wanted to say, the new film of Wuthering Heights, which they're filming at the moment in the Yorkshire Dales, I think it's being directed by Emerald Fennell, who you may or may not remember as playing Camilla Parker Bowles in The Crown, but also she was the director of, was she also in it, of Saltburn as well, which was a tremendous hit actually, the film. So I don't know, I've got high hopes. Well, I haven't got high hopes. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I'm just hoping I'm not going to spend all my time saying, what were they thinking? They're not being true to the text. Because, you know, that's a bit boring for everybody that I'm with. I don't think it'll stop me. I'm just, you know, saying I am still aware that it could be boring. I like this. Now, I'll tell you, this kind of looks to me like the kind of foil that you get in a high-end liqueur. You know, I don't drink alcohol, but the only alcohol I can just about tolerate is in a liqueur chocolate. So that's what I mean. That's because that's sort of part of my life. And over Christmas, that is something that people tend to give me because, you know, once a year I can have a bit of liqueur in a chocolate. It does have that kind of foil wrapping effect, which I do like and is quite Christmassy. Doesn't mean I wouldn't wear it at other times of the year. Let me show you close up and see what you think. I don't know whether I need to put a bit more. What do you think? I don't know. I like it though. I do. I think this shade here has really lifted that. They've become greater than the sum of their parts together, I feel. That's kind of how I feel. I'm going to put a bit more of it though, a bit more of Passage of Time, just a little bit more while we're at it. I really like this. Now, I could put a little bit of eyeliner on. Where is my eyeliner pencil? Where is it? This is a Morphe that I bought ages ago. And it's just the best one that I've got, I think, for the shape of my eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of eyeliner just on the outer corner. And for that, I am going to use more of Bookshop. So more of the darkest shade here. Do you know, I'm really liking this palette. I'm actually liking it even more than I thought I would once I tried it actually on my eyelids in the in Selfridges. And actually what I thought was, because I'm going away for a week and I have to travel light, well, relatively, you know, because even though we're driving, it's my husband and I driving, I have to take the bare minimum because I want to keep as much space in the car as possible, because we're bringing back a load of firewood. We're going to East Anglia, countryside, and we're bringing back a load of firewood that we can burn throughout the winter here in London. And basically we have both committed, and it's a lot easier for my husband to commit than me, but in the spirit of equality, kind of it both ways, I have said yes, I too will only take sort of half a very, very small carry-all and he'll have the other half. But that does mean that I have to be very kind of economical with the number of palettes and the amount of makeup I take with me. Because the thing that's absolutely not negotiable is the amount of skincare I take with me. I am not going to cut down on that. I kind of think, well, if I don't use 55,000 creams every night and maybe miss one night, maybe that'll be the time when my skin just says, oh, well, that's it now. Forget it. You're now going to look like a crumpled piece of paper, like this, basically, for the rest of your life. And actually, that makes me think of what is the crumpled piece of paper on this palette. I had to have a proper look, actually, because initially, not seeing it in person, but just when I saw the original kind of leaks and so on of this palette, it looked to me like newspaper, like just a scrumpled up piece of newspaper. And I kind of thought, oh, how retro, because, you know, newspapers are suffering, aren't they? Although we're all reading them on apps, but even so, the actual paper bit of it, that business is suffering. So I did think, well, that's a bit retro, but it's not. It is actually a crumpled up piece of a novel, which is Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, which so many of us loved and enjoyed as children. Okay, look, I've got the eyeliner on now. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and put my foundation, some blusher and some mascara, and let's see what the finished look looks like. I do like this. I just hope that we like it as much once the full look is kind of there. I don't want to put anything here. I know that's a bit boring of me, but I'll tell you why. The only shade that I could use is Alliteration, which is this one, nice and matte. But it's too white for me and it won't look as natural. I'm inclined to just completely leave it, or at best, and I don't feel this is cheating because this comes with me everywhere, at best just put a little bit of this second shade of the Natasha Denona, which she just calls light. So I could do that, but let me put everything else on and let's see what we want to do. Maybe I could put a little bit of shimmer at the top there, but I will go away and I'll see you in a sec. Okay, I'm back. So I have used my foundation, which is the one that I'm using a lot at the moment, the Victoria Beckham. I know it's really expensive. I just really like it. I'm not saying it's worth the cost. I'm just saying it's really nice and very forgiving on a very dry and crepey skin. And I don't know what you think. Let me bring you up a little bit closer. The lipstick that I've got on, because I am going more red and deep, I have decided this season. It's quite unusual for me. So to that end, I bought the Lisa Eldridge in Lily, which she describes as a dirty red with sort of a chilly kind of flavour. I don't know whether it's a dirty red. I don't want to contradict her because she knows way more than I do. For me, it's very much a kind of chestnutty shade, which is actually quite an easy shade for me to use. But anyway, see what you think to the eyeshadows. And all I've done is used Kitten Lash in black and burnt umber Kitten Lash underneath, because I just felt with this lovely sort of metallic shade underneath, it kind of warranted a soft brown mascara. What do you think? I mean, these are the quote-unquote scariest shades. I don't think they're scary at all because I think they're so easy to blend, and if you just use a brush you can get a much softer, more diffuse look. But I kind of wanted to start with these shades, which to me for this palette is kind of the elephant in the room, although that's just not the right phrase really, but I think that's probably where people might look at, or certainly all of us would look at and just go, oh, that's a bit much, or it's a bit too warm. You know, I thought all of this was going to be a cool palette until I actually saw the release. When the original leaks, it did look like a cool palette, and I think a lot of us did think that. So remember, I'm just reminding you what I've used. So I've used mainly this shade with this in the corner and this in the crease, along with some of this in the crease. So really only 4 shades, but I think it's a dramatic look, but as I said, it's not red as in making you cry red, you know. Over to you. What do you think? And now we'll go onto the cooler side of the palette and do a look from that, as well as a muted but warm look from this side of the palette. These sort of muted shades here. I think what I'm trying to do in this video, and I think in a way I've kind of fallen for this, in the sense that sometimes I'll kind of put the eyeshadow on and then kind of look at it and think, okay, I know what that looks like, and take it off and then do another kind of version with sort of different shades. But I am increasingly thinking that until I see the whole look, in other words, with the mascara and a bit of blusher and some lip, I can't really tell what the entire look looks like, particularly if it's a bit more of a dramatic look, or if it's maybe a set of shades perhaps out of my comfort zone, or even just shades that I don't use that much, that I am comfortable with but I don't use that much. So that's what I'm trying to do in this video. I just want to be able to give you the entire look so you can really see, because this is a lot of money, it's quite a commitment, and it's one of those, because it's limited edition, it's one of those things you've kind of got to buy it, you know, quite quickly and kind of live with your decision, as opposed to have the time to kind of, you know, see lots of different versions of looks. So that's why I'm doing it this way this time, but I'm sure you'll let me know if it's helpful at all to you. So I'm just going to go and wash it off now, and I'll be back. Moving on to the cool side of this palette, these nine shades here. I thought what I'd do is I thought I'd do one side using, I've got no sense of direction, as regular viewers will know. This one, this one, and this one. And then use the rest on the other eye. So we'll do sort of two looks, one on each eye from the cool palette. And then finally, for the sort of fourth look, as it were, I will do a warm, kind of more muted look. So to that end, all I've got is, again, I've got Lisa Eldridge Phoebe on my eyelids, done my brows, and that's it, and a bit of lip oil because my lips are very dry. Anyway, so using this shade Librarium, I'll just put that all over. Now, I am interested to see if this is a one and done. Now, I know that Byredo sort of does one big release, don't they? One of these big palettes for the last few years, and this is a little bit later than usual. But I did think it was worth just reminding you that, oh, that's very nice. Can you see that? As a one and done, that's easy. I'm not suggesting you pay $115 for a couple of one and dones. I'm just saying it gives you a bit of versatility. And going back to what I want to use it for, which is kind of taking away with me, this could really work. It's a lovely, pretty satin shade, this. Now, as you can see, what am I using? My Ref 14. I've washed everything again and it's dried out, but this is rather lovely, isn't it? Yeah. Very easy. Very, very easy. So just to remind you that this is a Swedish brand, but they have got an Italian creative director at the helm. She's been with them, she's Lucia Pica, which interested me actually when I looked it up. And I couldn't remember what pica meant. And I had to look it up. I knew it was a bird. It means magpie, but anyway, in Italian. But anyway, so she's been there since 2022. Before that, of course, it was Isamaya. So that's another palette release, isn't it? There's two of them. So Lucia Pica was with Chanel for quite a long time, 9 years, 8 years, quite a long time, 10 years, I can't remember, quite a long time. Oh, that's lovely. So of course she was responsible for Mineralscapes, which I don't have because I picked the phone up, but anyway, I'm getting over it. So now I'm going to go in just on the inner corner and use this one here, which is called Wordsmith. Now, Byredo, I didn't know this until I looked it up. I wanted to know who owned Byredo and whether it was independent or not. It was independent for a while, but now Puig owns them, and Puig is a Spanish firm that owns, amongst others, although it is the jewel in the crown, Charlotte Tilbury. I thought that was interesting. I should also say these are made in Italy, even though on the website, on the Selfridges website, which I looked up in case there was extra information that I needed to know to tell you, it says made in Spain. No, it's not made in Spain. The palette itself, and it actually says it on the back, is made in Italy. I'm not sure why it says made in Spain. I don't know whether maybe the box is made in Spain. It didn't say anything there, but anyway. So we've got that in the corner now. That's rather nice. This sort of creamy satin, which actually doesn't translate. That's what it looks like on my finger. But once I put it next to this, which is Librarium, it kind of smushes together. And we get this, which is a kind of whitey, silvery, cool shade, which I do like. And what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of Bookshop, which remember we used in the very warm look, the first look that I've just done. And we used that in the crease because it's nice and matte, this one. It's matte, but not flat. It's not powdery. I'm not getting any fallout. I should have mentioned that before with the very warm shades. I got no fallout at all. I mean, that's, you know, that's quite extraordinary. Okay, this is lovely. Reminds me a little bit of the Dolce & Gabbana. I have got it here. Let's just do a little cheeky comparison. Here it is. Remember this? I've reviewed this. This kind of look does remind me of what I achieved with these kind of shades. We'll do a couple of swatches later in case you're interested. Just get a baby one. That's very nice though. Easy to wear, work friendly, day friendly, not scary in the least, I would say. Yeah. Not scary at all. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll put the middle shade here, Epilogue, underneath, just to keep it sort of not too grey. Not that there's anything wrong with grey underneath, but just to give it a little bit of definition without too much colour. Okay, see, that's very easy. I didn't have to do very much at all, did I? Not really, just kind of supply the brushes. Yeah, that's easy. Should we try putting a little bit of liner on top for kicks and giggles? Okay, let's use Bookshop again, you know, the darkest, the deepest shade, just to give ourselves a little bit of definition, but not too much. So Puig is basically a Spanish conglomerate specialising in fashion and beauty, and along with Charlotte Tilbury, and as I said, that is very much the jewel in their crown, they have Carolina Herrera, they have Christian Louboutin, they've got Nina Ricci, which really got me down a rabbit hole, because Nina Ricci was the very first fragrance I was given, probably when I was about 9, and that's what I wore all the way through my kind of childhood. It was L'air du Temps, the fragrance L'air du Temps, the Nina Ricci fragrance L'air du Temps, which I have not sniffed for ages, and now it's made me want to revisit it. But you know, it might be like revisiting anything from your childhood. It's kind of, you know, bit smaller and more disappointing. I don't know. I'll try it though and I'll let you know. At any rate, they also own Rabanne. I do like the makeup in Rabanne, although I rather feel that people have been put off it. And there was one other, I didn't write it down, it'll come to me. Anyway, it's a family owned firm, even though they've obviously got external investment, there is a family member still at the helm of it with the surname Puig. I think it was established something like really early in the 20th century, like 1910 or maybe even earlier. So I thought that was interesting. There we go. Okay, when we put some mascara on, we'll see the entire look. I will now go on to use the other shades, which are, they're still neutral on this side. So it's kind of this shade here and these shades, but there's a little bit more warmth, I would say, but they may not be once they go on my eyes. Let's see what happens. So I will use Epilogue again in the crease, and let's see if we get, I want to use the top left, which is Mind Solace, this kind of goldy shade. If I can show you that one, that could be fun. Because look, this is Wordsmith, which I used on this one. Can you see by comparison, Wordsmith over here, it's definitely more silvery, but look at this beautiful creamy shine on Mind Solace. That's what I want to use over here. Okay. I do wonder what you think and whether you think these sort of big palettes, is it nicer to have them as a kind of a brand just doing one big palette a year, so it becomes kind of very special and becomes part of the anticipation, but also, one would hope, not just kind of cynically banged out. I'm not saying companies do that at all. Far be it from me to say that. But I do wonder whether you feel this feels a bit more special because it's, you know, it's a rare occurrence and, you know, relatively quite a small range. Although I did read that Byredo a couple of years ago has started going into jewellery as well, and I looked at some of the range. It looks very interesting actually. Okay, so we've got that there. I might put a little bit more in. So that's, you see, these are very easy. You don't have to do very much. Now, what shall I put in the middle? I'm going to put Chronicle, and I'm going to use my finger because I think we'll get a better effect. Let me bring you closer. Sorry, I should have done that before. There we go. So this is Chronicle over here. Very nice, very easy. Goodness me, just as I said, very kind of daily friendly. What I'll do is I'm using my MAC little flat brush just to put a bit more of this on, and then I'll turn it, flip it round, and I will put the Mind Solace in the corner, which is just lovely. Yeah, you see, they're very different. They look like they are so close together. The shades look so close together that you wouldn't get much of a difference, but actually you do. Yeah, that's very different, isn't it? Can you see? This is much more champagne-y as opposed to whitey silver. And remember, in the very warm look, we used Passage of Time, which is this one. And actually, I rather feel I should show you. So, Passage of Time, And here we've got Mind Solace, which is what I've got in the corner now. On this eye, I'm winking at you, that's the one I'm doing now. And then this is the one that we used on this eye. It's much more matte actually. Gosh, it's really howling. I don't know whether you can hear it, but the wind is certainly up, picked up. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll put a little bit more of this cheeky shade here. Okay, can you see the difference? Actually, it's not that this reads warm, it's just slightly warmer, just very slightly. This is obviously very, very much more of a silvery grey, which I do like. Have a look. And this, a slightly warmer neutral, I would say. That's interesting, isn't it? They are different looks, and that's absolutely to their credit. Let's put a little bit more of this, just as a little more of a contrast. I do want to keep these two looks soft to see what they can do, and then maybe deepen it, just so you can see both sides of the look, as it were. So that's the soft version of this. I'm now going to put a little bit of Bookshop, which is the darkest, mattest brown, and just give it a little bit more oomph, just so you can see what we can do here. This palette seems to me so carefully thought out. I have to say, I kind of wasn't prepared for quite how well curated it is. I think what it was, and it's more like, this is my stuff, not your stuff. I think what it was is initially I was so disappointed that it wasn't all cool. I kind of had to get over myself a bit. So this is me getting over myself a bit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you have to travel the journey of my, of my self-knowledge. Right, can you see this is a little bit deeper now? We've sort of, it hasn't taken much at all, as you saw, to get it kind of a little bit deeper, just a little bit more defined. And then the silver. I don't know, should we put something underneath? I think we may as well. Kind of feels like it would be rude not to. I mean, 18 shades. I'm sure I can find something interesting to go underneath. Let's see. I mean, I think in the first instance, slightly, maybe controversially, I might put this one, I know it's warm, underneath on this side. Why not? Let's see. I don't know, is it going to show up? Might do. Look, that's what it looks like. It may not show up enough. Let's try. Oh, it is actually showing up. That's nice. I'm not using eyeliner on top, just so there's two different looks, because you know that the deepest shade, the Bookshop, we could use as an eyeliner, as we have done here, but just to give you two different versions. Okay, and then in terms of this one, what do you think? Should we try? I think we did put a little bit of Bookshop under there, but let's do it again. A bit more definition. I'm going to go off and put some mascara on so that you can see everything. Okay, so I've got my mascara on. I've done the same thing with the mascara. I have used Lisa Eldridge. I didn't put on anything underneath because I thought it might be a bit much. And the lipstick is Lisa's Toasted, which was one of the earlier shades, one of the shades that came out earlier on in the year. It's this kind of milky tea kind of shade that's quite cool, so I thought that might be sensible. So let's have a look at both looks. So I will just bring you in so you can see both of them. So this is the grayer one. This is the one that's slightly warmer with that lovely Mind Solace in the corner. What do you think? They are two different looks, aren't they? The inner corner shade makes a big difference. And this is a lot grayer than I would have, I mean, I like it. I'm just saying it's a lot grayer than I would have anticipated. And to that end, I did swatch the Dolce & Gabbana Cool palette. So these at the bottom is Dolce & Gabbana. It's a lot more grey. And here are the closest comparables I could find in the Byredo. But as you can see, the Dolce & Gabbana is definitely much, much, much cooler. It's not just neutral, it's just definitely a grayer, cooler shade. And also the Dolce & Gabbana gives you this amazing topper, which looks pink in the pan, but actually is kind of more silvery once you've actually got it on your eyelids. But I thought that was interesting because you may not have bought the Dolce & Gabbana anyway. You may be thinking about this. I think you can get something pretty similar. This is very similar to one of the looks that I got in my Dolce & Gabbana review. So have a look at that video if it's that, if you're kind of, you know, wondering whether you're going to use the rest of the Byredo palette or whether indeed greys are kind of what you really want. But this is quite similar. This very different indeed. So that is what these two look like. I like both of these looks, I have to say. As I said, this I can get with the Dolce & Gabbana very close, but this is lovely. I mean, these kind of light pops of colour for the inner corner, I think this palette has really nailed them. There's a good variety of them. They look similar in the pan, but actually they perform differently once they're on the eyelids. So that's, you know, I'm looking at it now, it's so soft, really. You know, it's a lovely look. I think it's a lovely look. I'd like to know what you think and which one of the looks you sort of prefer. And if indeed you think this palette is that unique so far. I mean, we'll see the fourth look and see what you think to that. The most obvious comparison, I think, is probably the Lancome Café, forget what it's called, palette. And what I'll do is I'll do some cheeky quick swatches for you to have a look at, because I think that's probably the most similar in the sense that you've got these lovely sort of warmer shades as well as a couple of these kind of wine shades, but that's not as punchy in terms of the depth. But I may be wrong because I've not used it for a couple of weeks, I think now. Let me show you the comparison. This is Café Crush. I couldn't remember the name, I'm sorry. So Lancome Café Crush. Here's the Byredo. There are some similarities, but not really. The cool shades are a lot cooler. You know, Lancome isn't that cool. Have a look on the back of my hand. They are a bit sort of rough and ready. This is Lancome and this is the Byredo. Now, here's the thing. Look, I've got nothing to gain from either company. I'm just telling you, I've got both the palettes. I've paid for everything myself, as I always do. The Byredo quality is streets ahead of the Lancome. I know it's a different price point. I'm just telling you, that's the truth of it. What you have here is the Byredo is super duper creamy. The Lancome by comparison isn't. The Byredo is exceptionally creamy, basically. I mean, that's what it is. The quality of these is just beautiful, really, really beautiful. So as you can see, this one's the Lancome. We've got these we've got a purpley shade and a burgundy shade next to it, whereas the Byredo is much more of sort of warmer umber reddish shades. They are different. The shades are different. In terms of the lightest shades that the Byredo gives us, you know, all the inner corner shades that we've been talking about, sort of like you can see here and here and here, they are much brighter than the Lancome. So in other words, the Lancome is kind of more muted, but the quality is not the same as the Byredo by any stretch of the imagination. The thing that the Lancome does give us, and I know this is a shade that I have enjoyed using, or not so much, it's not just the one shade, but this little area of the palette with the green and also the pink at the other end here, that does give us some versatility, but they are very different. Can you see how you've got these kind of inferno shades at the top of the Byredo, which you just don't have in the Lancome? Still a worthwhile comparison. What I was left with when I was swatching was quite how surprisingly creamy the Byredo is in comparison to the Lancome. In other words, I knew they were creamy and smooth as I was putting them on my eyelids, because I would say to you, I have said to you, blending themselves are not really doing very much. That's really wonderful. But actually to feel them as a direct comparison with a Lancome, there's no comparison. The quality is absolutely superior in the Byredo. I'm glad we did that actually, because I would have said that there may be more similarity both from a shade range as well as from a quality, but there is a price difference. Okay, I'm gonna go and wash this off and I'll be back. My eyes are still bearing up. Okay, now for the final look. I've just got some more of the Dolce & Gabbana on my lips and some Phoebe on my eyelids. So let's go to this side of the palette and these kind of 6 shades here. I might be able to dip into this one actually called Soul Escape, just because of the name. Frankly, they have made an effort with the names, and I do like that. I don't like it when it's just numbers. I like to get excited about names. But anyway, I thought we could do a very warm kind of sunsetty look that still hopefully is okay for a daytime kind of look. So I will go into author's note, which is this one here. For the last, for 2 out of the 3 looks I've done, we have used Pages of Wisdom, but let's see. Okay, author's note. Right, talking of authors, now of course the whole theme of this palette is books. Now that kind of got me thinking, because clearly one of the inspirations have been kind of libraries and bookbinding. That's kind of what I think of. When I look at libraries in the context of this palette, it makes me think of bookbinding, partly because I know a little bit about it, just a tiny bit, but also clearly there is a theme of gold leaf and a bronze kind of look, and maybe silver leaf as well, because of the two sides of the palette. So at first I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's all a bit Harry Potter, isn't it? It's all a bit Hogwarts library. This is in the dim and distant past, when I was reading the books to my children. Didn't they have books that were forbidden, and I think they were chained down because the pupils weren't allowed to read those particular books, because I think they had particular spells that were forbidden. At any rate, so I was thinking about that, and then that got me thinking about a wonderful book that I read a while ago, but my husband read on holiday in the summer after I'd read it, kind of maybe 2 or 3 years later, something like that, called Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. Now that's a very atmospheric book, and bookbinding really features in the book. I'm making it sound boring. It's not boring at all. It's rather salacious. There was a BBC dramatisation of it, which I think was okay. But what I wanted to tell you about was the Korean version, well, a Korean film inspired by Fingersmith, the novel, and it's called The Handmaiden. And you know what? After watching the video, you should go and watch that film. It's so good. It's not for children. It's very much adult. Not because it's particularly, it's not particularly kind of risque, but it is risque. No, it is. It's very suggestive, but it's the most fabulous story. But the Korean version is very sensual indeed. And as I said, bookbinding is actually central to the story and to the plot. That's all I can say here, but I think you might enjoy it. And actually, Korean dramas in general, in my opinion, have got much to commend them. So, if you haven't already, this could be the start of a very interesting kind of journey through Korean film. But anyway, I just want to say that's called The Handmaiden, and I looked it up. In the UK, you can watch it. I'm really sounding like an advert. I don't mean to. It's just that, evening TV is a big part of my life, and I'm probably not alone, I would imagine, given Netflix takings and YouTube's takings, in fact, in that department. Back to the eyeshadows. Obviously, this is no effort at all, author's note. It's just, it's just doing its thing. Very easy. What am I using? Refer 13. Okay, now with my finger, are my fingers clean? Yes. I'm going to go into, this is called Gateway, this one here. I'm going to go into that. That's what it looks like. Look at that. Gorgeous. Oh, lovely. Okay. So can you see, this is very gold leafy, bronzy. There's an antiquities kind of quality, an antique quality to it, an antique gold shade, I would say. Lovely. Quite unusual, quite unusual. Makes me think of Natasha Denona's bronze palette, but I will have a quick cheeky look at it, and if there are any sort of similarities, I'll swatch them so you can have a look. But this is lovely, isn't it? Ooh, I'll do it on this side, and then off camera I'll do the other one, and then we'll see what else we can put on here. But this is a nice, easy look. isn't it? I'll put a little bit of this shade on here and just kind of blend it in. Lovely. Okay. Oh, that's lovely. It's also very soft, I feel, as a look. I mean, you know, in the winter, I wear a lot of brown. I wear a lot of brown. That's it. Brown and beige. And I think this is going to be rather nice. And then, of course, in the summer, bronzy shades are always a bit of a winner, aren't they? So I do think this may well be a palette for all seasons. And there's lots and lots of one and done shades here, which just gives us that versatility. That is very, very nice. I'm just going to go and do the other eye and even it up, and then I'll be back. Okay, just quickly, this is the bronze palette, Natasha Denona, and here is Bibliophilia. Very different. However, see that bronze, lovely bronze antique shade in the Bibliophilia in the middle that we just used on the eyelid? Let me just show you. This is Bibliophilia. It's actually called Gateway. And these below are all the bronzy shades in the bronze palette from Natasha Denona. I should tell you that the texture of the Byredo is light years away from the Natasha Denona. Now, to be fair, this is quite an old palette now. I've had it such a long time. I don't know when it came out. I will look it up and let you know up here. The formula is just, you know, is light years ahead of this Natasha Denona. This one here, it's so creamy on the Byredo. So they are different, but I do think it's worth you looking, because if you like me are a fan of the bronze palette, it is very different. There's not duplication apart from the bronze shade, and even then it's not the same at all. Yeah? Okay, now let's put that to one side. I do love this palette though. I do, and I always take it with me on holiday. It is one of my holiday palettes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to put a little bit of Passage of Time here, which is that cooler champagne, which I think will go quite well. I have got my beloved Refa 21. This is my favourite corner brush. That's rather nice. You see, that's very easy, isn't it? It's no effort. They blend, I cannot begin to describe. I wish you could reach over and swatch these yourself, because the quality that you feel, the creaminess is lovely. And actually it is comparable, and I know I said this in my review, it's comparable to the Dolce & Gabbana creaminess that we have, and probably then some, probably a bit more creamy. It's extraordinary that they are so creamy and yet the pigment is so fantastic and there's no fallout. That's quite a feat. So it's kind of the equivalent of patting your head and rubbing your tummy and maybe singing the alphabet song backwards or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's an episode of Sesame Street where they did that. Anyway. Okay, look, this is lovely, isn't it? I'm going to line my eyes with, I don't know, should we try this one? No, it's not. I was going to try this shade here, which is called Soul Escape, or we could try Biblioteca, but that we know is quite a bit more metallic. Should we try it? Let's try Soul Escape. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, then I will deepen it up with Bookshop, the dark brown matte. But let's give it a go. Do I have a... Yes, I do. I will try it. Gosh, I mean, you know, I've got crepey lids. Now, I know I've got Lisa Eldridge's Phoebe underneath, but honestly, for the amount of eyeshadow that I've had on and off and on and off, they're not dragging. I mean, they're not. And also, I just want to say, by now, my eyes would have been a little bit itchy, especially as I've used these reds, these carmine tones. I'm not getting it, you know? That's a good thing. That's surprising as well. That does surprise me. I don't know whether this is going to show up. I'm going to bring you up closer so you can have a look and see what you think. Oh, it is showing up actually. It might not be enough. Oh, it is actually. Can you see? Yeah, it is showing up. Did I not tap properly? Let's see. I'll tap on the other side because I did get a bit of fallout, but maybe I didn't tap properly. I don't know. I don't remember. Now, I should tell you the shade names, to the extent that you may or may not be interested in them, are written on the back of here. but they're tiny. I don't know whether you can see. It's really, really tiny. It's not, you're not even in eye test territory. I mean, it's kind of, you know, not even magnification. It's kind of, what's it called? You're in basically microscope territory, I think. But this is showing up. I can see it here in this, I can see it in this mirror. Whether it's enough is another matter. I think we probably want something darker. I think we do need something darker. It's too light for a wing. I'll just deepen up the last bit. Yeah, oh, I've got quite a good colour there now. That's nice. I did tidy up underneath. I think it is possible, actually, that this one gave us a little bit of fallout, but it wasn't, firstly, it wasn't excessive, and also I did find that when I made an effort to tap and to try and remember on the other side, there was much less, but there was a tiny bit. I just don't hold it against it. Now, what I thought I'd do, which I didn't do with any of the others, is try this shade here, which is called Alliteration, on the brow bone. Let's see what it looks like. I've got a fluffy Refa Shodo 00, and let's see what it looks like. I think it's matte. I'm pretty sure it's matte. Yeah, it is. This is the matte shade. So let's just give it a little, just a little fleck and see what happens. It may not be good. It may be too much. I don't really know. I can't tell, but I did think I should do it because for the others I did leave the brow bone more blank. That actually seems better than I expected. It's not completely matte when I put it on there. Can you see? There is a bit of a sheen, just slight. Can I see that? Let's see, if I show you on my finger, it looks matte, but it is, again, it's very creamy. I don't know. Maybe there's a very, very slight satin quality to it. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just a light satin. And so because the light hits it, you see it more. But I don't, you know, I don't dislike it. I think it's fine, actually. I would like to put a bit more bronze on the lid, and then I think we're probably done, and I'll go and put some mascara on. Okay, I'll be back. I've put my mascara on. This is the finished look, and I've got Lisa Eldridge's Lily again. I do like this. I think this may well be my autumn shade. So I'm just going to bring you closer and see what you think. Okay, there we go. I do like this, I think. I mean, I think what I have really, really appreciated in this time that we've been together, and I do apologise, this has been a very chatty video. I just think all four of the looks are very distinct. They're not different verses of one song. They are very distinct. So that's something that I really, really appreciate. I think there is true versatility in this palette. The shades are so super duper creamy that when I look at this is quite a sophisticated look. I'm not saying I'm sophisticated. It takes a lot more than an eyeshadow to work that particular kind of Harry Potter magic, let me tell you. However, the way the shades kind of blend, it's a sort of overused word, isn't it? But it's very, very seamless. And that, I think, gives a sophistication to this. That's where I'm at. So that the bronzy shade, that kind of antique ligold, it's not in your face bronzy. It's kind of still soft. Now, I'm a medium tan, but I do believe a lighter, I was going to say a younger person, a lighter skin tone could easily wear this. Obviously, anybody deeper than me, all of these shades are going to look fabulous. But I do think this is a palette for all skin tones, actually. Yeah. What do you think? I want to know what you think. And which of these, if any of these looks, do you particularly like and think are usable? I mean, if I go into what I sort of finally think, I would say lots of things. Firstly, the formula is creamy, creamy, creamy. It really is. It's creamy, it's not dusty, and they blend like a dream. I've had to do very, very little indeed. I would say even on the first shade that we used together, which is this one called Mind Reader. Do you remember I used the Refa brush first and then went in with my finger? That tells me that you really can use these very punchy shades in a much more gentle finished kind of way if you want to, and certainly if you're a bit nervous about using these kind of colours, and you know, that's probably all of us to begin with, isn't it? So I do think that's absolutely to the palette's credit. I think the colour story, and as I've said before, I was really sceptical and I was a bit underwhelmed when I went first time to Selfridges and swatched. But as I've said, I think that was as much to do with my mood, and also, you know, I had itchy eyes and didn't feel great about putting eyeshadows on and all of that. But I do think, for me, it has surpassed expectation. I have heard nothing but great things on Byredo palettes. I think a couple of people wrote to me and said, oh, Mineralscapes wasn't all it was cracked up to be, but that was absolutely the minority, and I really did deeply regret that I didn't buy Mineralscapes, and I got distracted with a phone call, then I never went back, and then by that time it was too late because they only had one left, as it happens, when I was on counter. But I'm delighted I've got this. £92, $115, that's definitely the higher end, but as I've said, that's what people are paying quite happily for Hermes. And Tom Ford certainly is pretty much there. Never mind Louis Vuitton. And here you're getting 18 shades. You're not getting a quad or a quint. I mean, I think the recent Dior's were 70 something pounds, weren't they? And let me tell you, there is nothing like the level of pigmentation that I have just enjoyed in this Bibliophilia Byredo palette. So, you know, I don't think there's any comparison at all. Is there value for money there in terms of what you're paying? In my opinion, there is, because the shades are, the quality is fantastic and the shades are all distinct from each other. These cool shades, they do look a little bit too closely related, but they're really not, as I've illustrated to you with the metallic light inner corner shades. They are different. There's no doubt about it. I think this is a terrific palette. As I said, I bought mine from Selfridges, and when you buy it, it comes properly shrink wrapped in the box. I found the shrink wrapping really reassuring. I really did. Just that it was had been protected from moisture, that it was kind of, you know, sealed properly. I found that very reassuring. And when you remove the shrink wrapping, it looks like that. Now, I know it's got sort of very much, as I've said before, kind of CSI fingerprint kind of stuff here, but it's nice packaging. I am slightly over the fingerprint thing. I just find it annoying because it always looks dirty even when it's not. So I understand it looks lovely, but it only looks lovely for 1 second. So I find that a bit annoying. The packaging is obviously, you know, this is nice, it's original, that's fine. I mean, I did think when I have that on my desk, it could be like I'd end up trying to pick it up thinking that I've, you know, got some scrumpled email that I've printed off and, you know, didn't reply to. But anyway, but in terms of the way, you know, is it sturdy? Yes, it is. It's a plastic case, but it is a sturdy plastic case. And it's also got a kind of metallic closure, so it won't just open sort of unsatisfyingly. And it's got a good full-size mirror. It does have the B for Byredo there, which may or may not annoy you, depending on, actually, is that oh, I take it back. It's a peely thingy what's it, but the thing is, I never peel them, so should I do it now? Yes, when you peel it, the B comes off, but I don't like to peel these off unless I absolutely have to use the mirror, because I prefer to keep it clean. But anyway, my point is that this is a really nicely put together palette. It's nicely curated, you've got your cools, you've got your warms, it's really well thought out. I don't see a dud colour here, a dud shade, I really don't. And I started off with the most demanding shades, really, and they're just beautiful. They really are. I'm so impressed, and I'm so happy, really, because I remember when I bought and reviewed the Dolce and Gabbana, there was I felt a kind of relief, just because eyeshadows hitherto, well, to date, for me, for recent eyeshadows, I've kind of been a bit disappointed in the pigment, and with this I was not disappointed in the pigment, but this kind of surpasses everything, really. So I'm really pleased with it. I think this, as long as you're the kind of person who isn't only a cool person or isn't only a warm person, you're going to get the value out of this. You'll get the wear out of this, I feel. You just need to be, you just need to be the kind of person that's going to use both sides of this kind of curation, really. I'm absolutely delighted. Yeah, I do want to hear what you think, and certainly if you've bought all the other Byredo palettes of this kind of size, how do you feel about this color story? Mineralscapes, as I said, that's the one that got away for me, and I understand how beloved and loved it was and is. I do wonder how you feel about this one and whether you're going to go for it, and if indeed you think, oh, there's so many other things coming out for Christmas. If I'm going to buy one palette by the end of the year, is this the one that's going to be it? Maybe you feel, it won't be. But anyway, I love hearing from you, so do let me know. Please subscribe. It means so much and so much to this channel, and I will see you in the next video.